everybody, and welcome into the Casual Sports Podcast, day one of week 7's high school football extravaganza, coming to you here live on your sports network. I'm Alec Brennan. Mike Wolfgang going to be joining us here in a little bit. He's driving back from class, so he will be in here in a little bit on the show. But until then, I'm going to be leading you through high school football games going on this Friday, which are going right across here at the bottom. We have 31 games in total coming up this weekend. Not all of them are on the network. I think we're about 24, 25-ish right now are going to be on the network this weekend. But this is the entire list of every team that we have signed on with the network that is playing this weekend. And we got some really great games. And it really starts off right at the top. Austintown, Fitch, and Wadsworth. And a battle of top teams in their respective regions. You look at Wadsworth, they're the number 3 team in Division 1, Region 1. They sit behind Medina, who's a one-loss team, and St. Ed's, who's a one-loss team. So clearly, very good status around them, and they're a really good football team. 5-2 on the season. They're 2 losses. Medina in a 45-35 shootout in that game to the top passing quarterback in the state over there in Medina, a kid who probably is going to be playing at the next level if he wants to. And then they lost to Hudson in what was kind of a expected upset in that game. Hudson's an undefeated team, and it was still a 17-7 game. So this Wadsworth team, very good, multiple levels they can beat you at, but they really do focus. It's a ground and pound team. They always have been. This is where I'm from. It's that suburban league conference out there west of Akron. You have some really good teams in it. This is the national side of the region. They just split it a couple of years ago. Hudson leads with Wadsworth right behind, with Royalton, Nordonia, Brecksville, Brownview Heights, Twinsburg, Stowe Monroe Falls. And one of the big things with this half of the conference, especially ground and pound, running game has always been emphasized, especially at Wadsworth. When I went to Copley High School, all of us thought of Wadsworth as Wisconsin. Big offensive line, and they are going to stuff it down your throat, down the middle of your defense all night long. So be prepared for physical football. They're going to run, but you see when this team has gotten really good this year, they're putting up big numbers. They're also throwing the ball really well. Very physical defense. This is a multi-level team. They're not one-dimensional. They are going to beat you, and will probably be maybe the most physical matchup outside of Madison and Washington that Fitch is going to see this season. This is a team that they're big. This Division 1, Region 1 doesn't get any bigger of schools than this. These are the biggest schools in the state of Ohio. So it's going to be a little bit of a hill for Fitch to climb in this game. Now, Fitch, in their own respect, I mean, Region 5, Division 2, they're the number 4 seed right now behind Painesville, Riverside, Hudson, and Hope, and that Hudson team, the one that beat Wadsworth. So if you're Fitch, I think right now you're looking at what did Hudson do in that game to pull it over this Wadsworth team. I think that's kind of the, I'll say, cheat sheet going into this game for Fitch, trying to replicate some of what Hudson did in that game. And what did Hudson do? Ran the football. Like I said, this is a running conference. In that game, Hudson had 187 rushing yards. They had 170 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception there, just 1 touchdown on the ground. But it's very slow. It's physical. So long as Fitch can get their offense going, they're going to be really good in this game. They're going to go out big. They're probably not going to have any struggles if they can get that offense going. And I think that's the big what if going into this game, is what can that offense truly do? But, with Hudson, that game when they beat Fitch, they had more plays. They had almost twice as many plays as Wadsworth. They had almost double the amount of first downs, and their time of possession doubled Wadsworth. You have to, when you're going up against a running team, you have to take the ball out of their hands, and that's what Fitch is going to have to do going into this game. That's the cheat sheet for them. Keep it away from those Grizzlies over there, because they are very physical, and if you allow a rushing style offense to gain some momentum and start kind of just imposing their presence on that line, you're not going to have a good day. So in order for Fitch to do this, keep the ball away. I would honestly say you got to keep things high paced. If you can keep the game moving quickly and you don't allow anybody to kind of stall and slow it down and give Wadsworth that chance to get that run game developed, you're going to be just fine. So that's kind of my key to the game for Fitch in this one. Now you look at it, state of Ohio in total rankings, Fitch is actually the best team. Fitch is the 14th ranked team with that 6-1 record, a 25.8 strength of schedule. On the other side with Wadsworth, 42nd ranked, 5-2 with a 19.7 strength of schedule. They jumped up after a win a week ago against Stone Monroe Falls, but I think this week, whole new monster for them. Fitch definitely has the edge. They've played harder games. They're in I would say, a evenly competitive region. Obviously, a division back, so you do have that jump. But I think Fitch gets it done here. They have been so phenomenal this season. I was kind of going back and forth because I've seen a lot more Wadsworth football in my life than I ever have with Fitch. But what we've really seen this year out of Fitch, it becomes nearly impossible to doubt them when their only loss is still to Madison Washington, a team that has won 6 games in a row since they lost to the top team in the state in week 1 in Archbishop Muller. And they just continue to run over teams every week. And in that Madison Washington team is ranked 5th in total in the state of Ohio. And that's the one loss. That's the one knock against Fitch this season is a couple scores down to Madison, Washington. Fitch is looking good. Likelihood is they're going to take this 4 spot, maybe a 3 spot. This would go a long way to give them a jump. You take down a Division 1, Region 1 team like Wadsworth, you're going to continue to increase that strength of schedule, which is something that is only going to benefit them going into the playoffs. Games like this set them up for the teams like Nordonia and Walsh Jesuit, St. V, physical football programs, even Hudson, Hoban, and Riverside, the 3 teams above Fitch in this division and in this region. Games like this set them up for games later on when they get to the postseason because we know they're in it. It's just a matter of who are they going to face at this point in time. At the moment, it looks like Ashtabula Lakeside is the team they're going to be going up against. But Barberton, a couple spots back in there. That's a Suburban League team too. So they're kind of getting a preview of what they potentially could see come playoff time. And they're going to get shown a lot of new things in this game. I have Fitch taking it. I think their offense has been really great, and their defense has been spectacular to go along with it. Outside of the Madison Washington game and Ursuline game, they hadn't allowed over 20 points to any other team outside of Lewis J. Bennett out of Buffalo. And they allowed exactly 20 in that game. Ursuline and Madison Washington, their 2 hardest games of the year. That's when their defense let up a little bit. I think going up against a ground and pound style team like Wadsworth, that's going to change up a little bit here in this game. I think that Wadsworth offers, they're going to get their points, but I don't think they're going to have enough firepower to hold up with Fitch. So after we get our big game out of the way, have to take it a step back and bring ourselves back to reality here in Youngstown of we have a lot of, good teams, but, a few of them might be in the potential to take home a state title this year and be in that conversation, but we have some others maybe not. And those 2 teams, Champion Campbell, they're going at it. It's a Campbell home game. I believe they're not their final one of the season, but here in week 7, only 3 games in total left. It's kind of must-win football, especially for Campbell. Playoffs, I don't think are in really the picture anymore for them. They need a lot to go wrong in front of them. They need basically everybody to lose. But a win here perhaps keeps that door open. Really the big knock here for Campbell is their strength of schedule isn't going to get them anywhere, even with the hard teams on it. And if they can win these final 3, it's not really going to give them enough. And what have you seen the last 4 weeks to give you a reason to pick them? They have really fallen off this season. I don't know what happened because I saw this team last year and they were physical and they were getting blown out at times, but it didn't seem like it does this year. And I don't know why and how they took a step back because I thought their offensive line has played a lot better this season. But their defense hasn't improved. They're scoring more than they did last season. They have 90 points they had 120, and there's still 3 games left to go. So you look at how they're scoring the football. you have a chance for a couple wins here at the end of the season. I don't know about this week, but Newton Falls and LeBray finishing out the year. Campbell has a shot, I think, especially against LeBray. Newton Falls, I think, kind of one of those, I don't know about it. We'll see how they play against Champion. And Champion coming into it, they're a team just trying to kind of hold on and keep their playoffs. They're 15 seed at the moment with their 3-4 record. They are the highest rated team under 500 for Region 17. Lakeview's behind them, Crestwood behind them, Liberty behind them. And you look at Champion's schedule, they just lost to Liberty. Upcoming, they have Crestview and they have Brookfield. This week and next week, must-win football for Champion. Hit that 500 record and see if the game against Brookfield is going to cost you. Because likelihood is Champion's not pulling that upset in Week 10 over Brookfield, especially not in Brookfield. But now here on the road in Campbell, I like them again. They're a good team. They're a solid team. I've seen them the last couple weeks. Or I've seen them this season. I saw them back against Newton Falls. The last 2 weeks, they've had struggles. Liberty had some momentum coming off a win against Campbell. Now I think Champion comes in. I think they're going to stick it to Campbell in here. I think it's going to be a big win for the Golden Flashes. But let's bring in somebody else's thoughts on it. Mike, welcome into the Casual Sports Podcast. What are your thoughts here, Champion and Campbell?
I was listening to what you were saying before you brought me in. There's really not too much to add. I just think, where's it at again? It's at Champion?
No, it's at Campbell.
At Campbell, but they haven't shown any type of home field advantage. They haven't shown any type of ability to play on the road. So the setting, they just really struggled this year. Like you said, they said they kind of gotten better offensively, but it's just not resulted in wins. They just haven't gained any momentum, any traction. And I think playing a team Champion, who I think is beatable. They're, like you said, they're a good team, solid team, but I just think there's just too much for Campbell to deal with in this one.
Yeah, but I think maybe the one positive to go out of the year, likelihood is they're going to finish more points for, less points against. They're about 100 under the points allowed they were at last season, and with really no super powered offenses left on their schedule. Champion can score, but Newton Falls and LeBray aren't going to go and run up 40 on you. I mean, you hope not, at least. But I think you have to there was subtle improvement this season. And hopefully going forward, they can continue to build. Andrew King over there, great coach. He took over duties on the offensive line. And I think you have to say, despite the fact they're not winning any more games, that line has been a big reason of why their offense has played better in games so long this season.
That's what you got to establish, too. You got to establish that, because if you want athletes in the backfield and on the perimeter, it starts up front. We always say that, Alec. It always starts up front. So if you get that, at least that's one good thing that they have moving forward is kind of show people that we can protect you and just, come here and be yourself, be your athlete.
That's how you get some of the basketball players and track players, right, to come out of the program, say, hey, don't worry, you're not going to take big hits in the backfield. It's all going to be out in space because we can get you through there. That's how you get a little bit more, attraction towards your team. You can get some of the speed guys that, you see all across on the best teams like Valley Christian, that they had, I think, 4 guys that were all running in state this past year, all on the offense. So, especially in this part of the state, you need some speed because we got speed all over the place. But Mike, I already gave my thoughts on this game, but Austintown Fitch at Wadsworth. What are your thoughts there?
Another good matchup too, I think.
Yeah.
For Fitch, or for both teams, really. I think it's another. Is it every week that we think it's a good matchup with Fitch that we keep talking about, hey, this could be it's every week.
Every week has it's been a struggle for them. They have the highest strength of schedule out of teams in Youngstown. But this Wadsworth team they're going up against, Mike, Division I, Region 1. They're ranked 3rd behind Medina and St. Ed's.
It's good. Good 2 teams in front of them.
Yeah, it doesn't get much better. And they also have Cleveland Heights and San Ignatius behind them.
Yeah.
I think I might have heard of those teams a couple of times.
Oh, a couple. I think so. I think it's safe to say. But no, another really good. I think Fitch is good prepared for this stuff, because I know losing that one against who did they just play last week?
Massillon, Washington.
Yeah. So going through a game like that in the schedule they went through before that, I think that prepares them for a game like this, and even going to the playoffs too. Because things get hard in the playoffs too as well. So I think what they've gone through this year, what they show that they are, they're looking pretty good going in.
Who are you picking in that game? I took Fitch.
I'm going to stay with Fitch too as well.
Campbell champion. I'm going champion to make that pick official in there. I like the way Campbell's pushing this team towards. I don't think it's going to be a very high scoring game because I don't know. We haven't seen a ton of offense out of champion this season. It could start here tonight. I think they probably, or not tonight, on Friday. I think they're in upper 20s, maybe 30s, but I wouldn't say Campbell's too far behind. I'd give Campbell at least 2 touchdowns in this game.
I think I pretty much gave away. I'm going champion too as well, but sorry, Dad, because I know my dad's Campbell alumni, but he's not going to like that. But
he hasn't liked the last few seasons for them, huh?
He has a lot more than that too. So things are rough.
Speaking of rough, Youngstown East 0-7, and the road's not getting easier because they will play a team that has already played at Rayen Stadium this season, a team that lost the last time they came into Rayen Stadium, in Canfield, who was in a loss 2 weeks ago to Cheney on the same field. Then they went to overtime, pulled it out on the road against Dover last week, 20-14, dropped Dover to 4-3 on the season. They're also going to be talked about a little bit later here in the show, as well as they're taking on another YSN team this week. But Canfield, Mike, going on the road to Youngstown East. They've lost in this stadium before. I think they're coming back, looking for some redemption here. It's kind of I think this is one of the final 3 games of the season that we're going to see them kind of test out a few new things, throwing some wrinkles in the offense, see if they can get a couple trick plays to get out there and work, testing out some new things in that first quarter, and then pull everybody by the time we get around midway through the second quarter. We're going to have a running clock in this game. Wouldn't be surprised if we had 8-minute second half quarters. Canfield's absolutely going to roll this game. They are just too good at the moment, and I really think we're going to see a lot of running in this game from them. I don't think they're going to even try and throw it. They don't need to. They're going to be able to get touchdowns, no problem with running the football.
Yeah, and I think as well as this game, as well as their next game next week against Town, I think there's some games that obviously I don't want to say they're games that you take lightly because you can't take any, but I think they're games that you can kind of sum up what you were saying is kind of use them as tune-up games if you want to use some new things, if you want to play, I don't want to say change things up because at this point you're pretty much running with what you have, but
right
at this, kind of just experiment.
See which young guys you can get kind of going here late in the season because they're going to get some opportunities. You're not going to put your starters out there the whole game. And the reality is those young guys, they're going to have a lot of opportunities in this game to kind of make themselves known. And even if they don't get a chance in the postseason, they're going to be known by next season. Hey, we saw this guy last year. He went in that game. He did something good. That's what you want to see. But hey, gotta give a little bit of smidge of love to Youngstown East defense last week. They lost, but it was a 3-0 game against Howland. So this week, I think, kind of paints the picture of what Canfield's going to do to Howland next week as well, considering about how evenly East and Howland were in that game. So Boardman end of the year, they're heating up. That might be a challenge for them because I think that Boardman team, they're starting to click, and they're getting really physical.
That game last week was a baseball game. What are you talking about with that score? That was a baseball game.
It was baseball. It was volleyball. It was anything but football.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think that's to kind of touch with Canfield. It's what I was saying with South Range the last couple of weeks is that you show, get some guys ready because if there are injuries in the playoffs, that you have some guys that have some end of the year experience that you feel somewhat more confident putting in. So I think it's kind of a tune-up stretch here for Canfield until they do play that Boardman game because I think that is this is going to be a little bit of a better game than I think we were thinking at the middle part of the year. But I got Canfield on this one, obviously.
Yeah. Our next game, keeping it with the Cardinal theme, but this time it's Cardinal Mooney, who holds on to an 11 seed after they move over 500 on a 3-game winning streak. Now they probably have their toughest test in quite a few weeks now, as Warren G. Harding, who I know is 2-5, is coming to town, but we've continued to look at this Warren G. Harding as maybe the hardest schedule in the state. Medina, Hudson, Massillon, Washington, Ursuline, St. V, Boardman last week, and they finally get that win back. They beat Bookdale in week 2, then they beat Boardman in week 6, and it doesn't get any easier because now they have Mooney, Cheney, and Fitch to finish out the season. Warren G. Harding set themselves up for ultimate failure this season. I mean, that is brutal to put them up against, but that's the kind of football you expect out of them. And even though they're 2-5, you're going to be hard-pressed to find a better 2-5 team, right?
Yep,
so coming into this, Mooney's going to have to play great, and here's probably their last chance for a win in the regular season, last chance at 500, because they have Steubenville and Ursuline their next 2 games. I got the Holy War shirt on today.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be throwing that back on week 10. I like the Cardinals going into this because I really think they've started to turn a corner and become a lot better football team. And we know they have some good defense. We've seen that kind of all season. No one's really gotten away from them. Lindsley, it was a 28-14 game, and they were playing 20-year-olds on that football team. They held Cheney to a 5-point game. Boardman was a 3-point game. So, you go on the other side and you go, oh, well, Harding, they've had a really tough schedule. Yeah, but they've also kind of gotten decimated in some of those games. They haven't been within 2 scores of any of the big teams they've played. They have a win against Bookton, a win against Boardman. Both of those were 1-score games. At least with Mooney, their 4 wins, they were 4 blowout wins and 3 close losses. This is very easily a Cardinal Mooney team that could be coming in here to week 7 undefeated. They're just not, because they couldn't quite close it out early. I think now that they've gotten a chance to test out a few things offensively, I think they're going to be a lot better of a football team. I think they stand a chance in the final 2 weeks to not only upset Steubenville, but upset their rival in Ursuline too. I'm taking the Cardinals in this game. That's not a shot here at Harding, but I really do think this is one of the best 4-3 teams around, especially defensively. If their offense shows up, they're going to win this game.
And yeah, I think you can kind of flip that on the side of Harding too if their offense shows up, because we know that they could, they haven't shown it. Actually, they kind of have in every game they have outside, even in the losses, they put up 21, 41, 28, 27. So they can score too, but it's the fact that they're not really, or I mean, that wasn't even their scores. I was looking at the wrong scores, but yeah, they haven't gotten their offense on track this year. But and we know they're capable of doing it. I just don't know if they could do it against a team like Mooney, who looks a little bit better. So I kind of want to pick Harding just because I've been sticking up for him this year, because I do believe they've gone through a really tough schedule. But I think Cardinal Mooney's playing better football right now.
Yeah, I really think they're starting to kind of turn the corner and maybe not get back to where they were, 40 years ago. But I think they're going to be a team we talk about a lot more seriously moving on here into the next coming seasons on your sports network. I think they've kind of turned that corner back to, hey, this is a good football team again.
Interesting closeout to the season too. I like their last 3 games.
Yeah, Warren G. Harding, Steubenville, Ursuline. Good luck there, Mooney. They sit 11th right now in Region 17.
Prove it.
Got Berkshire, Smithville, Harrison Central, Champion, Lakeview all behind them. A lot of kind of 500 teams in the mix. So I think this final few weeks for Region 17, from 10 on down, that's where 4-3 starts. 10 on down is going to be anybody's guess on who's going to make it in there. I think it becomes very interesting. Our next game, another interesting team that has been making some waves this season, 5-2, the Carleton Warriors, coming in out of the Northeastern Buckeye. And you see what they've done this season. They got wins over Kenmore, Garfield. They lost last week, though, to Alliance, and I think that's the big one coming into it. Not necessarily that they lost, but they lost 47-14. Salem lost to the same Alliance team 41-30. So if you go comparison, hey, who's your one common opponent on the schedule that is actually a good team? And that's Alliance. In fact, it's the only team they've both played this season, very different schedules. And Marlington, recent performance against Alliance too. It's not like this is back in week 2 of the season. It was the week before Alliance played Carleton. Got to give a lot of credit. That Alliance team is tearing up this conference at the moment. But Salem comes off a win a week ago against Minerva. They played good football. They've played good football all season. They have one of the only wins against Beaver Local this year, who's 5-2 and have won 5 straight since that loss to Salem. And, early on, I didn't know what to think of this group, especially after the week 4 loss to Kent Central Catholic. It was close, but then it was close again against Padua Franciscan. Then they lose to Alliance. Then they go in against Minerva. I'm still kind of stuck in the middle of, all right, what is this team actually wanting to become postseason? They're a 9 seed. If you win here, lose next, or pardon me, if you win here, beat Marlington, and we'll see what you can do week 10 against West Branch. I don't think you're winning that game, but we'll see what you can do against West Branch in week 10. Who knows where you're going to end up? A 7-3 team. Where is that going to fall inside of this region? It could have you finish 6th. Poland's 4-3, and they're the 6th team. Or, you could finish down where Edgewood is. They're a 4-3 team as well, and they're sitting 13th. So it's kind of a big wait moment for Salem and going into this game. They've shown really great offense and a pretty good defense. I mean, they've only allowed the big games out of Kent Central Catholic and Alliance. I think Carrollton probably has a big offensive game. And these two teams, statistically, when you look at them, they're pretty much on par with one another. Salem scored 227. Carrollton scored 210. Carrollton's allowed 140. Salem's allowed 150. They're right next to one another when you look at them in stats. And, you look at where Carrollton sits in the postseason right now. They're a 13 seed, Division 4, Region 15, and they're only kind of getting pushed back because they don't have a strength of schedule. Their record right now, the highest 5-2 team in the region is number 5 in St. Clairsville. So you look at Carrollton, might be a little bit better than their record may state as well. Despite the fact it's a 5-2, it's a good 5-2. There's some nice wins, but the loss to Garaway, the loss to Alliance, that's being punished. Carrollton looking kind of make a statement. If you can go out here and win this game against Salem, you're going to get some, points for playoffs. It's really going to help you. And being a 9 seed currently, or right in that mix, potentially getting up there to a 9 seed, you really need it because everybody wants home field advantage. That's always the big storyline. Every coach wants it. They're a 13 seed. A win here, though, making them 6-2. They're going to get bumped up inside of that top 8, in my opinion. I think that's how that computer ranking would specifically go into it because I think Salem a very good team. I'm kind of a coin flip between these two, Mike. I don't know which way to go.
I agree with you. And I think on the side of Salem, we've been talking for the last week or so. We just don't know what to expect. And I think it's you don't want to be in that spot at this point of the season with when you're, kind of gearing up for the playoffs because you're going to be in. It's just you don't want to be in that position where week to week, people they don't know how they're feeling about you because, you have close games where you shouldn't, and you look good in some other games, just kind of like a roller coaster effect. And I think Carrollton's been a little bit better with that this year, but I think both these teams are kind of in the same category. I think that's why you're kind of, having a little bit, you're kind of torn up here about who to really pick. I think it's a good one.
Ultimately, I'm going to pull Homer here. I'm going Salem. They're the team on our network, so that's the way I'm going. I'm taking Quakers, and I'm hoping we set up a great matchup in Week 10 against West Branch, who's currently 6-1. Obviously, we'll talk about them here a little bit later on. I don't think that's a game on today, but it will be talked about on tomorrow's show, which is getting pre-recorded later tonight. So I'm talking about them today. You just won't hear it till tomorrow.
I'm actually going to go against that and pick Carrollton in this one because I think they've shown a little bit more than Salem has this year, and they are actually that'd be a big road win too for them. I think it's in Salem, right? Yeah, it's in Salem, so that'd be a good road win for them. I think I like them on the road.
There it is, right here, Carrollton, Salem.
Yeah,
just had to wait for the ticker. You were about 10 seconds too quick.
I was on Max Preps, and I was making sure.
Yeah, so our next game, it's another road game for a big name team. It's Cheney, and they're going up against Howland, who was in a baseball game last week against Youngstown. He's that 3-0 score. They somehow pulled out the victory in it, and they're in a 2-game win streak. But Mike, that 2-game win streak is getting snapped. Cheney's going in there. They're going to run this thing up. Kind of the same situation we're talking about with Canfield, right? Test out some new things, run some new formations out there, get your young guys involved. So, if you can get your young quarterback in Jason Hewlett a little bit more confidence to go into this kind of finale to the season and see if maybe you can, or pardon me, it's not Jason Hewlett, it's Matt Jones. If you can get Matt Jones to connect with a couple of the young guys that you haven't quite seen so far in the season, all while keeping that physical nature and taking this 1 yard.
Yeah, and Hewlett is on just not the right position. But
right, he's on the defensive side. Yeah,
and I think that's the anchor of their defense. That's the guy everybody talks about on their defense. And I think Cheney has – I mean, they really haven't done much wrong this year. I mean, the 3-point loss to Ursuline, that's pretty much all you can really criticize them about. They look pretty good and everything else. So I think, like you said, it's going to be maybe a game where there's a running clock and, to start things out late in the game. But I got to go Cheney. They look really good right now, to be honest. And
I'm going to throw this out here. Cheney is getting their first shutout of the season. They haven't had one yet. Bold. They've been close, but I'm going shutout. Howland's offense has not been there the last 2 weeks. Their defense has, won them those games against Warrensville Heights and East. Your offense isn't winning you a 3-0 game. That's defense and the kicker.
Hey, and Cheney almost shut out Poland week 1.
Right.
One for safety. They wouldn't have got anything.
Still crazy to see that score line. 2 points as your entire offense in that game. But I don't think Howland's offense has really been much this season. They've scored 72 points on the year. Cheney's allowed more than that this season, which is kind of the crazy part. But they've played some really high profile games to get those numbers a little bit higher up. But Cheney, they're in a great spot postseason. They're third. Canfield, Cheney, Ursuline, man, the 2, 3, 4. This top 4 in Region 9, insane. Starts Chardon, then goes Canfield, Cheney, Ursuline. Then at 5's Alliance. CVCA's right behind him with University School. Then you have Aurora. All of those teams are 1 or 2 loss schools. It continues to go down. And you don't finally get to 500 teams until you hit the 15 seed in this bracket. Yeah. And those teams are still with winning records. And New Philadelphia, Akron East, and Painesville Harvey, who we obviously just saw Cheney take down earlier last week. As forgot to put myself back on the screen there, just seeing Mike as I'm talking over. I'm doing a Mike voiceover. Apparently that's what's going on. But our next game, Conneaut on the road in Pymatuning Valley. The Lakers trying to defend home field and keep up a 4-game winning streak if they can pull this off. Their last loss came on the 9th to Rootstown. Since then, took down St. John, Harding, and Wyndham. Now they have easily their hardest test on the schedule in Conneaut that they've seen in a while. Conneaut beat Rootstown. Rootstown won 48-6 against PV. Conneaut beat Rootstown 33-14. So there's quite a spread in between them in terms of that common opponent. And we've seen PV in big games go down hard. I think this is another example. I got Conneaut big in this game. I would go ahead and say you can probably run up this clock. It's going to be a running clock.
Yeah, I mean, and I know some of them are, I guess, lesser teams, you would say, but they could put up some points too. And I'm going to pick Conneaut too, and I kind of agree with you in the fact that it could be running clock in the end of the game. And I mean, their defense has been pretty good this year too, looking at their score. So I just think it's more it tips more in Conneaut's favor. I got to go that way too.
Yeah, and they're looking to take that jump into the top 8. They're a 9 seed right now in Region 17. So I think they're looking, hey, a win here tonight. I know it's against just Pymatuning Valley. It was a 14 seed back in Region 21 for Division 6. But you want wins over teams that are currently in a playoff position. And that's what tonight would potentially bring. Or not tonight, why do I keep saying that? Friday night could potentially bring for Conneaut. I think this is a statement game. They got to go out here and set it up for the final half of the season. PV, they don't have it easy coming up. I mean, Conneaut this week, Toronto, and then Vienna Matthews after that. Road is rough from here on out for them. We'll see how they fare.
I mean, that's what you want. No, go ahead. I was going to say that's what you want. That's what you want for Conneaut. It's kind of play a little bit better opponents come down the stretch, and it might not happen. It's really not going to happen this week or next week, but at least get some big wins to kind of feel yourself good.
Now, this next one might be a little bit of a head scratcher on who's going to take it, because it's Dover, who obviously we were talking about a little bit ago, and their loss to Canfield in overtime, coming in 4-3 off of back-to-back games in which they've gone to overtime. They went to 2 overtimes last week at home against St. Francis de Sales out of Columbus. And now they go on the road into Boardman, who was just in a close game against Warren G. Harding. Just lost it on a field goal. They haven't really had a competitive game in a while until that. Boardman, kind of one of those teams I'm not sure what to feel about this 4-3 record, because 3 wins against, I'll say, bad schools. Benedictine's winless, East is winless, Howland is 2-5.
Yeah.
Their one good win is over Moody, but their games against, even Warren G. Harding isn't a good loss. That's still a 2-5 Harding team now. And I know we were just talking, that's still a really good Warren G. Harding. But when your record's 2-5 and Boardman came in at 4-2, that's a game you have to win. There's no question. I don't care if that team is more physical. If you're trying to prove that, hey, that's a good record for us, that's a game you have to win. And with the schedule Dover's played this season, really good. And you've seen what they've done the last 3 weeks to Steubenville, Canfield, and DeSalle. Close losses in all 3. They're hungry trying to find one of those wins. I'm taking Dover in this game. I'd like to see Boardman pull it. I think it's too much of an uphill battle, and we haven't seen them win good games this season. Week 1, they win on a field goal. I think if you replayed Mooney Boardman now, Mooney probably wins.
Yeah, I think I'm going to pick Boardman because of the fact that, again, this might not be a good reasoning, but I think you're talking about on the side of Dover, back-to-back overtime games. I think that's
They
they
played
weren't
3 extra sittings of football.
yeah, and they were back-to-back weeks too, and I think that's kind of they weren't big high-scoring games where guys were out on the field a lot, but I think that's kind of take a toll on somebody. It's especially high school kids too. At some point, I could be wrong, but I'm going to pick Bournemouth just for that fact, and I think they have this one at home too. I think that kind of matters a little bit. So I'm going to pick Bournemouth. Or wait,
right.
no, I think Bournemouth's on the road. Yeah, they're on the road.
Boardman's home tonight or tomorrow.
Oh, they are home. Yeah,
damn it, I did again.
They have the same colors, and I had it pulled up wrong. Sorry.
Not a problem. No, but Boardman at home. Boardman currently sitting in the postseason, 16th spot. They're on the edge. So that strength of schedule clearly not helping them very much either. They're just kind of weighing the scales back and forth. And a win here against Dover, who still sits 10th seed in Division II, Region 7. This should go a long way to keep Boardman in the playoffs, especially with their upcoming schedule. So it's a game Boardman needs. I hope they do it. I just haven't seen it. I'm taking Dover.
Yep.
Next game, prepare to close your eyes, change the channel, and hit mute because you're not going to want to watch it. It's East Palestine on the road taking on the Columbiana Clippers, a combined record of 1-13 this season, and neither team has scored 100 points in total. They've both allowed well over 200 on the defensive side. However, East Palestine has the win. So that's kind of the one thing. East Palestine, the lowest ranked one-win team in Region 21. They are the 26th ranked team, and they sit just ahead of 27th 0-7 LeBray. So they're behind Campbell despite keeping it close in that game. Columbiana on the other side of this is that's not the right Columbiana.
Yeah, I did that too when I was pulling it up.
I don't know why I can't find them. Do they just get deleted off of the rankings?
Maybe. Maybe.
Hold on, let me look for the 0-7 teams. What the heck? Why is this? Mike, you want to fill in while I'm trying to find this?
What site are you on?
I'm on the OHSAA's website.
And they're not. Maybe they got booted.
Rankings pulled up.
Maybe they got booted.
They've been eliminated from the OHSAA.
I mean, I don't really know what there's to fill in with this game. On the side of East Palestine, like you said, maybe you could pick them because it's the one win. But has it been impressive? No. Is anything these teams done this year impressive? No, not really. But that's about all I got with these teams because there's really nothing there. What are you trying to look up again? Where they're at?
With their ranking, obviously I know they're last, but they don't exist. Columbiana is not on the OHSAA computer rankings.
Sorry, Columbiana fans.
Which lists every single team. Yeah, I typed in Columbiana on hit Control F trying to find them, and all it brought up was Crestview.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's the first time I've had that happen. We've been using this for weeks now. I think this is the fourth week, and we use it twice a week. So that's how I want to. Considering Columbiana has been booted from existence of the OHSAA, I suppose I'll take East Palestine. The internet doesn't want them. Doesn't want Columbiana as a football team. So we'll go Bulldogs.
Since it got booted, I'll pick them for that reason.
I like it.
It's not a good matchup. I mean, why not?
Right. They're going to get one win, and they're going to be back in that computer ranking next week.
Get it back in.
There was just too many 0-7s. OHSA just had to go and delete a few for the week.
Yeah.
Here's their chance to bounce back. Neither one of these teams, I think, going to get another win on the season, though, if they can take it. Although Columbiana, they actually do have a shot. They got Latonia next week. They should win that game.
Yeah, they're just not good.
Bulldogs, no chance. They got Valley Christian and I think Southern the final 2 weeks.
That means they got to win this week.
It does, because here's your chance at 2.
That's rough.
Yeah. Not a fun year for them. Our next game up, Canfield and the Columbiana team that does show up on the OHSAA Harbin computer rankings in the Crestview Rebels. Crestview, what a down year it's been. I mean, they get 2 wins in their last 3 games, but they don't stand even, a shred of a chance against Garfield. And that's not a knock at really Crestview. That's more of a hey, hurrah for Garfield this season because they have been so good. And the one loss is against JFK by 1 point. They still, 7 games in, haven't allowed 100 points in total. They've allowed 76 through 7. So they're doing pretty good. I think you would have to say, and they've scored almost 300. They probably will hit the 300 mark this week. They're at 260. I can definitely see them hitting 40. They've done it each of the last 2 weeks. Each of the last 3 weeks against Newton Falls, Champion, and Campbell. So I got Garfield going big. This game really, unless they lose, not really going to impact where they sit in the playoffs. They're already in a pretty good spot with a 8 seed, so they're going to have home field advantage. Obviously, just continue to win. I think it's going to be really hard for them to crack that top 4 though, because they just don't have the strength of schedule. Brookfield is going to help next week. That's really going to make that strength of schedule go a little better. But that top 4: Norwayne, Perry, Garway, and South Range, from going 4-1 there. You're not going to crack that. Those teams are really good. They're going to take the 2 home field advantage. If you're Garfield, keep bouncing in between this 5 to 8. Get at least 1 home game here for the postseason. I think they go big. I think they're going to tear apart the Rebels.
I think they go big too, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say I don't think they're going to lose again this season. I don't think that's really going out on a limb, but
Brookfield, that's the one next week.
Brookfield's the one, but I don't see him losing to Liberty. I don't see him losing this week to Crestview. So I guess that's the final challenge left on their schedule with Brookfield. So I'm going to go in Garfield in this one big.
Yeah, and on Monday's show, I was talking about this Garfield team when I was talking about Brookfield a little bit and what that Week 9 matchup is going to mean. It decides the conference. It's going to help both teams out come playoffs. They're both hunting for those top 4 spots. Brookfield, I think, could get it if they beat Garfield and go almost undefeated, winning their 9 final games of the season. But they're completely redesigning the team this week. They're going in and tearing apart the defense to try and counteract Garfield's wing T messing with your eyes style of offense that is 80 years old but somehow still works. So when you have that, Brookfield's defense have had nothing but struggles against Garfield the last 2 seasons when they've played. So that's kind of the one thing going into it. Is Brookfield really going to be able to finally stop Garfield's offense? Because that's the best offensive Brookfield team we've seen so far. And it might still not be enough against the defense against the offense of Garfield.
Yeah.
But our next game, Mike, it's a great one. Hubbard and Girard in Girard this Friday. Both teams 5-2. Hubbard, though, they've been in some close ones recently. The last 4 weeks have not been kind to the Eagles as they lost to Poland, went to overtime against Struthers in a win, lost to Jefferson, beat Lakeview in a shutout. But the trend, the last 5 weeks now, win, loss, win, loss, win, coming out here on the road. Their last road game, in fact, their last 2 road games have each been losses. Now, Girard coming in, they've lost their last 2 games as well to South Range in Poland. I called the Poland upset last week. They were going to have a letdown. They did exactly that. I think they try and bounce back this week. It's a home game for them. Them going on the road after the South Range loss killed them. That's what that was. Poland, they were heating up. They were a pretty good team, and Girard was having a huge letdown. You could see it coming into it, how that was going to play out. I called the upset, and Girard goes down. Girard this week, they're not getting another upset. They're winning this. They win out the rest of the season. They finish 8-2, and they're going to have themselves a good old time in the postseason. Still the number 1 team in Division 4 Region 13 over West Branch. So at the moment, they would be taking on Mogador Field. So should be a pretty good start to the season, start to the postseason. They should see some wins early on. And then I think they'd set up a game potentially against Woodridge, Canton South, Salem, Streetsboro, one of those teams in that mix, I think, in round 2. So Girard's in a great spot. I think they can take this weekend. I know Hubbard's a great team too, and that's not a knock at them, but they're the 12 seed right now in the same region. There's clearly a big gap between what they've done this year. I'm taking Girard. They need this. If they lose again, that top spot is gone for them. They need this.
And I think too, this is only your third home game of the year too. After that home game against Liberty, that 3 straight on the road, then South Ranger, they got beat pretty bad. Then, like you said, I think that was a bad thing for them going on the road last week. I'm going to pick Girard too, but I'm going to keep in mind too as well is that since I've been there and the last few times I remember them playing Hubbard gives them a hard time. So I'm going to pick Girard, but I'm going to put this one a little bit of a watch here, I guess I'll say, because obviously in Girard, if you lose this game, you don't want that to happen because that'll be 3 straight losses. You're not going to be feeling pretty good about yourself going to the playoffs. You're going to lose a top spot. You just need to get back on track because I think Struthers, that's another sneaky game next week is against Struthers.
They're 14 seeds, so this is kind of a setup for that game as well. Hey, Struthers right behind Hubbard in these rankings.
Yeah, and I think that's another tough one to kind of close it out. And I think they should beat now this week, the last week of the year. But these next 2 games I think are somewhat challenges for Girard. And they got one at home and it starts this week, so I'm going to pick them. But it's not an easy pick here. I think they're a good team, not evenly matched, but they've been having a good year too as well.
Our next game, Indian Creek on the road and Beaver local. Mike, this one quick, easy. It's going to be Beaver all day. Beaver first quarter. Their last 2 weeks, 127-7. They've outscored their opponents. And just last week, they beat Harrison Central, who was coming into that week 4-2. That's a pretty good Harrison Central team that they eviscerated. They left nothing left in that game. Beaver local is legit. I ain't really got much else to say. They're a 4 seed right now behind Girard, West Branch, Northwest. Nobody in their right mind normally would tell you that this Beaver team has any business being in a conversation with Girard and West Branch. But here they are this year, proving everyone wrong. They are going to feast here against Indian Creek. It ain't going to be pretty. Ain't nobody going to want to watch this after halftime. It's going to be over. Write the check.
And I think, too, not even just with this matchup, because I'm picking the same way, but I think what they've done after losing those first 2 games of the year is pretty impressive. And the way they've done it, 42 points, 58 points, 31 points, 62 and 65. That's 60-plus points in your last 2 games. I don't care who you're playing. That's a lot. That's impressive. And one of them was a shutout, too. So I'm on the same page as you.
Our next game, similar one. I don't think anyone's going to be watching this one very long. Lisbon coming off back-to-back wins against East Palestine in a very impressive win last week against Wellsville, one that I was not expecting. They won 57-26. I saw that offense a couple weeks ago against Valley Christian look like they were stuck in the mud. I don't know who this Lisbon team is, but they're playing a lot better. And Letonia, I'm sorry, they've scored 6 points in the last 5 weeks. I'm glad they got points against Southern because it was just their second time scoring points this season. I think they have a shot at some points here in the next 2 weeks against Lisbon, Columbiana. I do think they can get some back, but I don't think it's going to be pretty. I think Lisbon, they're figuring something out, and at the moment, they do have a shot. Postseason is well within reach. They are an 11 seed. They just continue to hold on, continue to push, and lose to United next week, but beat Columbiana week 10. They're going to be in this postseason, and they're going to have a 6-4 record. Should probably put them up. They're kind of getting some luck this region 25 outside of the top. Really not that great, especially once you get out of that top 9, top 10 teams. There's a lot of fall off. So a lot of opportunities to stay in this postseason. Wellsville is still in as well. So I like where Lisbon's sitting. Letonia, unfortunately for them, season's kind of over. I guess they can. They're going to continue to fight, and you got to give them credit for that because I don't think anyone would blame them if they just went, all right, guys, we're canceling the rest of the season. There's no point playing these last 3 games. I give them props for going out there and trying to keep these games close. They've almost done it a couple of times, kept things close, but every time it slipped away. I don't think they keep in touch with this one. I'd like to see them get a touchdown or 2 against Lisbon, though.
Yeah, I agree. I got Lisbon, obviously, and I think it's the way their season's kind of gone too, opening with 2 wins and losing 3 straight and then bouncing back with 2. I know the one was against East Palestine, but again, 34-0, that's a shutout against anybody. That's really good. And beating a Wellsville team that's around 500 last week, pretty good, 57-26. So they're playing better right now. I got Lisbon.
And 2 games left to talk about here today. We'll save the other bunch for tomorrow's show. So we did 15 today, 16 tomorrow as Matt rejoins the show. But Louisville, the Leopards, going on the road into Glen Oak, and battle of 2 and 5 teams. Both teams, brutal schedule this year. I mean, we've talked about Louisville in this schedule. Steubenville, Poland, Northwest Canal, Fortin, Hoover, Lake, Perry, Green, that they somehow pulled the upset in last week. And now you go into Glen Oak, who's also had basically the exact same, just disgusting schedule this season. Last week, Massillon Jackson, they played Green, beat them before it too, in just about the same fashion. It was 31-24 for Glen Oak, 27-23 for Louisville in that game. Then they played Hoover, they played Lake, they played Fitch, they played Massillon, Washington. They beat Shaker Heights in week 1. Both of these teams have had struggles. I'm going to give the edge here to the Ville because Glen Oak was shut out last week. And I know they're coming back home. That probably gives them a little bit of a bounce back because their last home game they've won. They've only played 2 home games on the entire season. And one of them was the Massillon, Washington, the other the Green. I think I'd probably give a little bit of an edge here to Louisville coming off a win. I want to see them carry in some momentum because I don't think they're winning the last 2 weeks against Notre Dame, Cathedral Latin, and Lindsley. So this is kind of that shot. I think they need to get it done. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take the Leopards. I don't love the pick, but I think I'm going to give it to them.
I don't love either pick, but I think on the side of Glen Oak getting shut out last week, maybe that lights a little bit of fire under them because, 35-7 against Massillon, Washington, that's not – you can kind of categorize that as holding their own. They've – against that team like that, yeah.
Right.
But I don't see them having, coming. It is their home game for them too. Not that always matters, but I do kind of look at that. I don't think there's a right or wrong pick in this game. I'm going to go opposite and pick Glen Oak.
Well, Glen Oak, they got it tough to finish the year. Canton McKinley, Massillon, Perry, their final 2 games
so
of the
I think
season
both these
after
teams,
this.
both these teams really need this one because the way they end their schedule
might be their last chance for one, right? Okay. Louisville, let me see where they sit currently, postseason wise. I think they might be 18th. So still a shot. Yeah, it looks like they're 18th. Painesville, Harvey, and Akron East above them. They're the highest rated 2 and 5 team, just ahead of Notre Dame, Cathedral Latin. So a shot here. I think that if anyone's going to do it, they can.
Yeah.
And then our final game to talk about today, maybe my favorite team, one of my favorite teams we have going on. Definitely, I think my favorite quarterback, Vinny Ballone, and the Rockets are taking on McDonald, the Blue Devils, who have dropped their last 2. They even dropped the Battle of the Blue Devils last week against Western Reserve. Now they return home for what is their 3rd home game of the season. They have 2 more after this against Waterloo and Jackson Milton. But tomorrow night, they take on the undefeated, undeniable, unstoppable Lowellville Rockets, who currently sit 3rd. They are the only undefeated team in Region 25 for Division 7. Pardon me, 1 of 2. Southern's the other one. We'll see how long that holds up. We'll talk that game tomorrow. But after this weekend, Mike, they are going to be the only undefeated team left here in Region 25 and Division 7. I love the Rockets. McDonald, it's just been a down season for him. I'm a little disappointed with how it's gone. Kind of same as last season. Kind of thought maybe coming in they were going to turn it around, and they ended up finishing 3-6. This isn't the same team we saw pre-COVID. I mean, that COVID year, they went 6-2. They were 6-5 the year before that, 11-1 before that. It's a great program historically in the last couple of years. And last 2 now, they've had big fall-offs. So I think any other year, it should be a great game. I just think this time around, the Rockets are just too much to handle. They're coming off some huge offensive performances. Jackson Milton, obviously the big one, but Waterloo, they put up 50. They put up 41 to Sebring. And if it wasn't for a running clock and then pulling the plug on it, they would have put up more. They limited Vinny Ballone in that game. They only allowed him to throw for 4 touchdowns. They definitely could have letting him go for more, but they didn't. They called off the dogs. I applaud it. At the same time, I want to see Mr. Ballone go big time because here is where he stands right now in the OHSAA and his record tracking. So I put this together before the game. It's up on my Twitter page too. He also retweeted it. So career passing touchdowns. Currently, He has 108. That is number 11 all time. Where he's expected to finish, 125 based on his 5.6 touchdown per game average that he's currently putting together this year. That put him 125 by the end of the regular season, which is good enough, 7th all time. For passing touchdowns in a season, he's 39th. That is not inside of the top 40. However, with his 5.6 touchdowns per game, he's expected to finish at 56, which would tie him for 12th all time. He's number 1 in the state of Ohio in passer rating. He's number 2 in the entire country in quarterback rating. He is 30th all time right now in career passing yards, expected to finish 8,500 for his career, 16th all time. And his number 1 wide receiver, Brady Bunofsky, on pace for 17 receiving touchdowns. That would place him tied for 38th most in a single season in OHSAA history. This is the greatest offensive showcase the Valley has seen in decades, maybe forever. This is the team right now in the Ville. I'm taking them big in this game. I don't know if they're going to pull off another 9 touchdown performance. If they wanted to, they could. That was a statement game in an undefeated battle against Jacksonville, and they went for it there. Now they set up Mineral Ridge next week. I think Lowellville, they're gonna kick that offense right back into gear. We're gonna have a running clock at halftime. No doubts on that one. And the Ville goes big time.
Yeah, I think they remain undefeated after this one. It has been McDonald's year. I think, like you said, they're a team that has good tradition, has had good teams, has been good for a while, but just not this year. I think Lowellville, just different category with their offense, and I think it really sets up a weekend or a game next weekend against Mineral Ridge. That might be one of the better matchups in the last couple of weeks. I know we were talking about some of the teams that they've played that they've been putting up a lot of points, but you kind of look at those teams like, are they that great? So I think that they're going to get another big one this week, and I think that sets up another one next week. It's a really good game because it's 6-1 Mineral Ridge team right now at the moment.
Yeah, that's going to be something else. And, that win for Lowellville, if they can pull that against Ridge and go undefeated for the regular season, I don't know if they'll jump. I don't think they'll jump JFK because JFK's strength of schedule is going to glue them into first place. But potentially a chance to jump over Danville if they can get that win next week against Mineral Ridge. So that's kind of what you got to hope for is, hey, put the pedal down. Time to get the business. At the moment, they'd have Buckeye Central in the first round. It's going to be touchdowns galore for Vinny Balone in this postseason if he can keep this up. That's going to do it. Day 1 of our high school football extravaganza here on the Casual Sports Podcast. I've been Alec Brennan. This is Mike Wolfgang. Matt Morrison rejoins the show tomorrow. Power Hour up next on your Sports Network.